What if the way you've been telling your life story reveals the secret to what is holding you back? Stories play an integral part in how we see not only ourselves, but the whole world. Stories are more than just an important part of communication. They also reveal hidden aspects of our inner talk, which can either support us or end up holding us back from the very things we want most in life, without us even realizing it. Join author, mindset coach, and award-winning singer-songwriter Carrie Rowan on her show, Look for the Good, every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. when she shares nuggets of wisdom from her internationally best-selling book, Tell a New Story, 5 Simple Steps to Release Your Negative Stories and Bring Joy to Your Life. Carrie's powerful stories and compelling guests will empower you to change how you look at your own life while giving you some powerful tools and tips you can use every day to help you feel better and move yourself closer to the life you've been longing to live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Look for the Good. I'm your host, Carrie Rowan, mindset strategist and coach, and I love sharing nuggets of wisdom about the stories we tell each other, and more importantly, those stories we tell ourselves. You can join me and my special guests as we share our personal stories of strength and triumph every week here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. You can listen online on your mobile device in your car or ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. And tune in every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern to get real stories and tips on how to turn your story and your life around. And evolve with us as we unite humankind with universal love. I'm so excited to be here with everybody today and welcome back. We're actually at the top of a new year and I'm so excited because I didn't tell anybody this yet. And I was just waiting before I introduce, let me just say hi to Jennifer Blaine, waiting in the wings. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey there, Carrie. So good to see you.
It's so good to see you. And we are both so pumped up for this episode. We can't wait to share. Well, the news is that today, dun, 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 this episode, when it is launching, is my 100th episode on Look for the Good. Let's see the celebration. Jennifer's got the emojis flowing over there.
Let's do it. Yeah. Celebrating.
So, woohoo! We are celebrating over here, everybody, 100 episodes. And that's so cool. And I want to just give a great shout out to everybody listening. I want to thank you, my listeners, and my beautiful special guests, just like Jennifer, because without you listening and pulling up a chair, right? It's like you're coming to the table, you're joining us in this conversation, two friends having a conversation about things that we care deeply about that can really transform the world, right? When we share our stories and how we transform ourselves and our lives, we give everybody permission to do the same. And I love that. That's the magic of stories, right, Jennifer?
Absolutely. I'm so moved by your words.
Oh, thank you. And so we're going to talk all about Jennifer's stories. And why is this important? Why is 100 episodes important? Well, it's really important to celebrate every milestone that we make. And I feel like sometimes we forget that in life, right? We just get so busy. We're just checking things off on our list and we don't stop even for the little small things. If you've decided that you wanted to start something new in the new year, and this show's launching on the 13th, right? So you've had a couple weeks to practice it. I don't care how small the little step you have taken. That's all it really takes, my friend, right? That one little better story that you tell yourself that you can do it this year and you do want to embrace change for your life this year. It's those tiny little things that you get up every morning and do, even if it's just a 5-minute centering yourself, having a little meditation, journaling, writing down what it is that you want for the year. Because you know what? Writing it down makes it happen. You're 34% more likely to do it when you write it down. And why am I celebrating today with you? Because today you've committed to listen to the show, and listening to the show will transform your mind. It'll help your mindset. It'll help you look at your stories differently so you can see the power and the strength in your stories instead of beating yourself up about your stories. That's why we're celebrating today, because I want you to find one little thing that you can celebrate about your life, even if it didn't happen, because here's the secret, my friends. Just because it didn't happen, it can happen in your mind. When we imagine things and we create that movie in our minds of how our life can be and will be, when we make that tiny little change and connect to that emotion, that is just like making the actual change. So why not do that? It's easier, it's simpler. You can sit and imagine, use your imagination for good. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, Jennifer, aren't we? We're going to talk about creativity and imagination.
Absolutely. That's what we're going to do.
Do you mind if I tell them a little bit about your background?
I would love it if you did.
So, Jennifer's a playwright, a life coach, comedian, actor, voiceover artist, and creator of a musical. Wowza. Her original writing, performing, and comedy delve into serious and socially relevant issues and provide audiences the opportunity to unite in laughter. Whether in a coaching session or holding an audience in rapt attention, she brings unlikely perspectives and creates breakthroughs, often when people are facing tough challenges. As a life coach, she's coached hundreds of people on 6 of the 7 continents. Wow. She has a knack for listening to your story to guide you to the swiftest, best answer or resolution you need. And I love that. I love that you really dive in. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, I love everything you do.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so awesome to be with you.
It's so fun. And Jennifer and I know each other from way back. We have known each other throughout the years and touch base here and there, on and off, and have connected always on this creativity piece, right? And you guys know I'm jazzed on creativity because that is the spark of life. Tell us your perspective on creativity because you've created so many incredible things. We didn't even talk about your one woman show. We didn't talk about any of that,
Mm.
but we're going to talk about that and
Okay.
how that transforms lives. Tell us, why is creativity so important to you? Why do you embrace it so much?
Because for me, I find that my aliveness is directly linked to my creativity. So when I'm watching someone else engage in their creativity and be true to themselves and follow those impulses to express what they need to express, or when I'm brave enough to stay with a feeling I have of, ooh, I really want to tell this story, or I really want to make something that's mine and express something I've never expressed before, I'm having this chance to go into the unknown and invent. And it's
Mm,
this incredible interplay of listening to that something that wants to come through, a dream we've always had, maybe overcome voices that are telling us we can't do it, that are either coming from inside us or from the world. And it's following that until we it reaches its fruition. And there's something about that creative process that also is so deeply satisfying that it's the definition of nourishing for me, you know,
mm,
and that I can want a friend to console me, I can want a result that goes my way, and those things are important. And unless I'm actually showing up for my creative process, I'm not really going to get to that place in me that wants something that's only going to happen that way. You know, I'm only
yeah.
going to really satisfy myself if I put on the show, if I write the book, if I work on the lyric to the song until it's what I really want to say and what I really want to sing, you know?
Yeah, totally. There's so much goodness in there
Mm.
because I love what you said about nourishing, right? And I think, people have this misconception about creativity, right? Like, how many people do you know? Oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Oh, I'm not creative at all. But we can't not be creative. We are born of the creation of the creative. And that spark resides in us. So when we learn to ignite that, that's exactly what you opened up by saying. That's the true feeling of life. That's what makes us feel alive. But we forget that, right? Because
Mm.
our humanness dives back in and says, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and you got to do it fast, and you got to do it well, and you got to check all those things off your list. And creativity falls to the wayside, right? And I also feel like school really wrings the creativity out of our kids, unfortunately. And so it's our job to remind them and nourish them, right? How do you remind yourself? I mean, for you, you're so in the depths of it. How do you teach people to realize that they are creative and to remember what that creativity is inside of them in their own unique flavor?
That's such a wonderful question. I think the first thing is we have to actually be aware of what's going on in our bodies. So when we're breathing in a regulated fashion and tuning in and just noticing what we're feeling, that's a way to start going inward to even sense things we might want or need that are beyond what we were told we could do or even consider. So it's that combination of that tuning into our feelings and our body and our impulses. But then the other thing I do with people, and I do this a lot in performance, is I will literally and figuratively toss so that you have to come right back, kind of like improv,
Yeah.
where people are just free associating or they're having to actually catch so that there something unexpected happens that takes them out of a pattern so that they're just playing. So I think it's that combination of uh, being with what we're experiencing and the truth of where we are, but also having ideas fly by and objects fly by that make us have to then try something. And just with a someone I coach who's the head of a company at the end of last year, he said to me, I'm not really that funny. And I said, well, why don't we just try every session? We'll just do improv. So we start every session now with free association.
Love
And
it.
so word, 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 and it starts freeing him up to just be able to express. And when we're in the process of expressing, as long as we are not in the editing mode of it, then we're able to land on something that, oh, I like that, and then build on that thing.
I think the editing is so huge, right? It's like you got to quiet that editor mind. And I love that you're engaging them somatically, using their body, catching a ball or whatever. You're throwing yourself off. So your brain doesn't have time to go into that. And we're all programmed like this, into that. Oh, I can't do this. Why is she asking me to do this? This is weird, right? We start judging, putting it in its little box so we know where to fit it. And I love that you're getting people out of that comfort zone because really, that's the only place that change really resides.
Mm. And you know what's really interesting to me is a lot of times people say that they don't know what they want or what they want to create, but a lot of times they really do. It's just that they've gotten used to putting things on top of that or distracting themselves, numbing themselves
Yeah.
from really hearing it. So, the other thing I really love playing with, especially in coaching, is listening with my intuition for them flagging to me the answers for the questions they have,
Hmm.
that they have gotten a little too disconnected from being able to read themselves to really honor those impulses.
That is so powerful because I feel like in this world that we live in, we're so like you said, we're trained for distractibility. We're so trained away from ourselves, right? We walk around with these little computers and everybody's vying for our attention. And so our attention spans have gotten so small. But it's that externally focused, we live in an externally focused world. If you're not that, it's hard to survive, right? But on the other side, right, you have to find that time to turn it around and look inside.
I so appreciate that because I hadn't really thought about how creativity is very inward. Because for me, I think because I practice it so much, I feel like I'm in a conversation with all art and all people all the time. So whenever I'm watching something and it inspires me, it goes directly to now, what do I want to do about that? But I think even before that stage, even listening, that part of going inward and listening is just such a ritual that I do that I didn't realize it's that inward. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Because, and life is always training us to be like, I think about this younger generation, with they don't have those communication skills. They don't trust themselves. They trust everybody else because everybody said, look out here for the answers, look out here for comparison. And as we know, comparison is the thief of joy. And until they can kind of break that and recognize that and say, wait a second, I do have the answer because nobody really does know the right answer. They might give you their perspective, but they're only seeing that through their lens. They don't know your lens. Only we can see it through our lens. Only we can truly know what is best for us when we take that time to get quiet, right? Whether that is through art, right? Which
Yes.
is where a lot of the answers lie, and whatever form that might be for you. That for you, for somebody, their art might be making an absolutely gorgeous gourmet meal, and that's their art. Lining up the beautiful ingredients. And somebody else, because we think art, oh, paint. I'm not a good painter. I can't draw, right? So we kind of, again, limit ourselves into what creativity can be.
Yes. And I really do come back to that it is this impulse, and it is this aliveness, and that we all need to have access to it for the reasons we said already about the taking care of ourselves and nourishing. But I think there's also the other side of it, which is that to tackle all these problems that we're navigating, there's so many challenges, and old ways of solving it aren't working because things are coming at us so quickly. So when we're working the creative muscle, yes, it can seem as though it's an esoteric thing, but it's absolutely a necessary thing for, it's almost like we're out creating the
Mm,
problems at this point because just
mm.
problem solving is too narrow.
I love that. We're out creating because just problem solving, it doesn't even work, right? Because I'm gonna venture to say, if you're in that same mindset that the problem was created in, right? We all know that you can't solve it. And a lot of times we're so focused, we keep asking questions about the problem. But in steps creativity, it gives us that space between, okay, what is this problem I want to solve? It gives us that space. It gets our minds lifted into a higher vibration. That's where the solutions are.
Yeah. And at a show I did recently, people started dialoguing with each other. I give prompts where they were supposed to do that, and then they kept doing it to the point where they were sharing about their lives, and someone was saying that their in-laws were not very welcoming to their husband, and a woman that's a similar age as the in-laws said, well, I'd really like to hug you, and please give this hug to your husband. And so one could think, oh, what could come from just being more creative? Well, it can actually make us more compassionate to strangers,
Mm.
and create an actual experience of trust where we're not, because of this isolating factors in our lives, we're having less of that. So if we're creative, I sometimes say, like, I think I'm doing it for myself because I am so driven with this passion inside me. However, it has this effect on others that we can't predict.
Mm. I love that. And it's in the unpredictability. That's where the magic comes from,
Truly, yes. Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And that unpredictability is what changes our perspective.
Right. And then there's also an interplay between you and the field of all possibilities, infinite possibilities. Um, I was thinking I needed a whiteboard for a show I was doing. And I went out on a walk and I womanifested not a whiteboard, but white boards that I found on the street, which turned out to be canvases.
Ooh.
So then I thought, well, maybe this is a message. So I brought them to the show and I gave away, I want to say the canvases were at least 10 by 8. They were huge. And
Really?
and so I gave away these canvases so that painters in the audience could paint, or people who wanted to do visual art could paint. Uh, and that came out of my thinking, I need a whiteboard.
Yeah.
So I think it can look it we can have a very concrete idea in our head of what we think it'll be, but as soon as we get in motion with it, it can take on a life of its own. It can become
Mm.
not one whiteboard, but 3 paintings. It's
Yeah.
so I love it for those reasons of
I
the
love that.
unpredictability.
The unpredictability. And I love, and here's the thing, underneath all that, you have to have the trust. You had the trust. You trust yourself. You trust the visions. And because when you can trust the universe, it's always looking out and it always delivers in a way that you least expected. And when you can be okay with that and trust that the universe has your back and what you manifest might show up exactly, or it might show up a little different, but being open and trusting, I feel like is the key.
Absolutely. And I love the mantra, this or something better.
Oh, I love that. I can't believe you just said that to me because I've been using, I can believe you just said that to me because I have been using that mantra lately so much that I just love that. That
Yeah.
is so huge.
And the this or something better is comes in really handy when the thing that we were hoping for that we might have been attached to
Yeah.
doesn't work out,
Yeah.
something better can come along. Um, I had a show that I worked so hard to get an audience out to. I was like the wrong night for so many people. I persevered. I pounded the pavement. I thought this is the hardest time I've had getting an audience out. And the show went well. But then a few days later, someone that was a stranger that came in off the street emailed me and said, I want to learn how to be as comfortable as myself standing in front of a room as you are. And if I hadn't done all the things that I did, I would never have created a connection with this person who does healing work all over the world. And we our sessions were so expansive and transformative that they were at a whole other level for me. So I think I'm getting an audience out. That's what I think I'm doing. But I'm actually creating a sacred space that is going to look a lot of different ways, that goes beyond the performance space. It
Mm,
goes beyond what I could have initially conceived of. So yeah,
yeah.
this or something better is a really, um, oh boy, it's just a wonderful tool. Yes.
It's huge. I want you guys to write that down. Remember that. If you remember one thing about today, remember that mantra that Jennifer just shared. And we're going to break real quick. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Look for the Good 100th episode here with Jennifer Blaine. We are having the most incredible conversation. You shared that mantra. I told everybody not to forget to plug it into their brains. What I meant to say was remember it. That's what I wanted to say. Start saying it to yourself. Put it into your brain. Talk to us. You were just sharing a cool story where with
Oh,
another example of how that was really pertinent and how you turn things around with that
oh,
mantra.
thank you so much. Yes. So, well, the pandemic hit, and but as a result, live performance went away for a while there.
Yes, it did.
And so what I thought was, well, what could I do now that I couldn't do any other time? You know, the this or something better. And I realized I always wanted to write a musical because I'd been writing scripts that had music from other shows in it as part of the Kimmel Center had a program here called Showstoppers. And I would write basically musicals without the songs. So I'd write all the storyline and put that together. But you'd always need to have the copyrights for the songs to do
Mhm.
it. And I said, I just want to write my own songs. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, here's an opportunity to write these songs. And so while we were in lockdown, I was walking along the streets of Philadelphia and being a space to receive these messages, these songs, these melodies, and create it all.
Wow.
So even I think the reason I wanted to just share about that is because sometimes the external circumstances being so limiting or narrow forces us to go, well, what could I do? And really, that was one of the most generative times I ever had because I'd been nursing a dream for a
Mm.
while, and then I really got to focus on making it.
Yes. I love that. The same type of thing happened as well for me because I launched my book during the pandemic. And that was not what I intended to do. That was not my intention. I mean, nobody intended that, but it wasn't my intention to, okay, like, oh, wow, we're going in July, but it's the pandemic. And I thought, you know what? this is actually divine timing. When all that happened, I knew, and I lost all my gigs too, all my long-standing in-person singing gigs. They all went away, especially with children. I had to sing, 10 feet apart outside in November. That's not going to work. So
Yeah.
I had to redirect myself. And I thought to myself, okay, thank you, universe. You're showing me that I need to get into my office and write. I need to go inside. I need to finish this book up. And that's what I did. That springtime, I used it to finish the book up and then launch it in July because I thought, okay, this is exactly what the universe needs right now. This is what the world
Yes.
needs to hear is this
Yes.
message right now.
Mm.
And so that became my mantra was all about that. That's why I'm creating this now, right? I'm letting this other stuff go. And this is what is going to serve the greatest good for people around
Yes.
me and myself.
I so appreciate that. I love how you use the time that way. And then I'm also appreciating that what you were hooking into also was that people were searching and going inward more and they were listening. So it was
Mm.
also a really good time to get people's attention to actually have them hear what you had to say.
Yeah, and help them transform because they were in the middle of exactly the stuff I was talking about in the book, changing your perspective, changing your mindset, changing your story about what's happening around you that you don't have control over, all those things that are so
Mhm.
important and really stepping out of that fear because this talk is going to unsettle a lot of people because they have those dreams inside of them and they haven't really done anything about it because it's scary. Like I love the example of the corporate guy you were talking about. He's in that box. Corporate guys can't be funny. They have to do X, Y, and Z, right? So I ask people, what's that story? What's that dream?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take much to let that come out and be alive again. Maybe you just write about it this year. Maybe you just make a little promise to yourself. You're going to do one tiny little baby step. And maybe you sign up for a class, right? Or an online writing class. You do one little thing that gets you a little bit closer because then it can become a reality when you start to do tiny little steps towards that one little thing. And maybe this is the perfect timing for you.
I love that. I also think that just as I was referencing before, we're not alone. We feel we're alone. But as soon as we follow those impulses of those dreams, often we think a dream is for us, but we're writing or creating for us and others we don't know yet. And that is so exciting. Those moments when I empower someone else. I say something that shifts someone's permission structure about what's possible for them. And we don't even realize all the other people we're here to impact. And so when it's rooted in our creativity and our creative impulses, it's really the most sacred
Mm.
connection we can have.
Yeah. So sacred. I mean, you are pulling in, from your highest, your seventh chakra, you're pulling in. I mean, you can literally feel it, like for me, the example of if a song comes, it is a holy almost. It really, it's so sacred.
Right.
And to treat your artistry, whatever that is, as sacred gives it this special energy. And being protective about that too, I feel like is really, really important about that creative
Mm.
space and allowing yourself and really writing it into your day that you will spend that time in some creative energy.
Yes.
Because the promise is it's going to improve all your relationships. And it sounds crazy, right? But we know that that's true. Because
When
when you
I'm honoring my creativity, I'm a much more fun person to be around. I am more generous. It's sort
Mhm.
of like by doing it, I create so much more energy in my life.
Totally,
And then
totally.
and then I have more things to contribute to people, more ideas. And also when we're doing that deep listening inward, we are able to hear what's going on with other people better as well.
Yeah, it makes us more compassionate, it makes us more open. Our hearts are open, right? Our magnetic resonance is coming out just wider. And so I feel like that's the thing missing. People think they have a relationship problem. It might not even be that. It might be the relationship with yourself because you're not honoring your soul's calling, what your soul wants you so badly to do, you know?
Right. And in fact, there's the goddess Kali is the goddess of creativity, but also of destruction.
Ooh.
So the thing about creativity is when we're sabotaging it or we're denying it, that is easy to see that it could be destructive to ourselves, like to our mood. It can bring us down. But it can also, like you say, it can also negatively impact people around us. So, really, we're serving everyone when we're honoring our creativity.
Yeah, I love that. I think of it, I'm just keep thinking about this quote from Wayne Dyer, and you did this exact thing by writing your musical, is don't die with your music inside of you.
Mm,
And sometimes that haunts me, and sometimes it makes me feel really good. When I'm doing it, I feel really good. When I'm not doing it, that haunts me because it's my soul's calling, right? Like we need that creativity. We need to take those gifts. You know, my dad and I talk a lot about this in my book. My dad always said, you know, when God gives you gifts, Carrie, it's your responsibility to give them back to the world.
mm.
People need that from us, right?
Yes, and you mentioned a few minutes ago about having a practice. So I'm thinking, even hearing you say when I'm doing it or when I'm not doing it, um, you know, if you use that your own idea about the creative practice, maybe that's a way you can answer yourself that at moments when you think you're not doing it, I like to use the notes app on my phone to
Hmm.
jot down an idea. Sometimes even when I'm coaching and people will see me do this, I'll write down a word over here because even though I'm really with someone, something comes through. So I think by making the space for having creative practice
Yeah.
is so important that you brought that up because people think, well, I'm not creative. Well, if we don't actually devote some attention to it, it'll keep eluding us and evading us. But if we put some time, even if it's 5 minutes,
Mhm.
into being creative, and that can mean drawing with our non-dominant hand or brushing our teeth with our non-dominant hand, anything that changes a pattern will just be available for new things to come through.
Mhm.
And just to go back to your dad's point and your own thought of, well, am I doing it? Am I not doing it? I think there's a lot of emphasis put on having finished products
Mm.
in the world. That it's only when the book is done and it's only when the movie is done that the thing is done,
Right.
that it's then legitimate. But truly, it's the showing up and honoring and being with, hey, what do I really want to express here?
Mm.
That is the center. It's the heart of it. So I would even say like that part of am I doing it? Am I not doing it? Even the quiet, nothing coming through, I don't know what I want to do is part of the creative process.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes when it seems like nothing's happening, it's because we need to create from nothing as
Mhm.
opposed to creating from, hey, look at me, I'm actually okay, and proving something. Creating from nothing means it's quiet enough that we're tuning into our heart and we're saying, you know what? When when my niece said she has no friends, what do I really want to say to her about what a friend is? And that part of something that we're caring about tremendously will get deeper answers to. So sometimes things take time.
Mm.
And as far as the any kind of those voices, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Right.
Those voices usually are there to come back to one of our first points. They are actually there to suppress our creativity. It's actually there to distract us. It's actually there to keep us from shining or going, yeah, I'm not doing it. And I wonder why I'm not doing it. Am I scared?
Mm.
Am I not doing it because I'm comparing myself. Am I not doing it because it matters so much to me and it scares me to take a step into that? Who can I be brave with? Who can I look to inspire me that when they were scared, they did it, right?
Mhm. Full body chill on that.
Hmm.
That was really magical. Yeah, I love all that. Asking yourself those questions. And I love the creating from nothing because what you said, all those things are just a story. They're all just a little story in our
Right.
minds, right? That we
Yes.
tell ourselves, right? You also
Yeah.
said the permission structure. You're breaking that down. You're looking at those stories. Wait, why do I have to just have a finished musical to be great? That's not true. Is that true? Asking ourselves those questions. What are those? Getting those down on paper is part of the creative process because you're clearing that blank slate. You really can only create from that blank slate, not from fear, not from chaos, from that quiet moment of sitting there and contemplating that question about your niece. You gave me chills on that too. Is where the deepest connection back to our soul and who we really are lies. That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful. We're going to have to break. I know you guys don't want to break. I don't want to break. I want Jennifer to keep talking in her magical way. But don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with the amazing Jennifer Blaine. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Look for the Good. This conversation is so enlightening. I had so many goosebumps, like I almost needed to go grab a blanket. Jennifer, your conversation was incredible. You drew us so in. Let's talk to everybody about anybody can be creative. I say that to my clients all the time. Um, we all have that spark inside of us. Sometimes you just have to brush it off. Let's talk about creating
Yes.
regardless of your circumstances, because you shared with me an incredible story that I would love to share with you about some of the women that you help.
Yes. Yes. So I got to have this incredible project happen at a maximum security prison, a women's maximum security prison. And what happened is there was about 10 of the women who decided to be part of the project. And what I did is I gave them prompts to write about things in their lives that were difficult, that they wanted. And I used these prompts to then map out with them the story of one woman. And so they all told the story of one woman. So here we are in a prison. By the way, it's very cold in prison.
Mm.
Um, and the women had their paper and their pencil, and they were writing. And they would write about this character, Dania, and each stage of her life and something important that happened to her that caused her to be uh, in prison like they are. And at the end of the project, they then performed for the general population of the prison. And everyone was crying and laughing, and they were amazing. And one of the women stood up that had just performed, and she said, "My whole life, I never would raise my hand in class. I would never speak in front of a room. And because of this project and because of Miss Blaine, I will never stop." And so here we are in a prison with them knowing they have months and years ahead of them, but they had their voice and they had an idea of something they really wanted to express, and they now wanted to speak. And they had the audience in the palm of their hand, the listening in the room of 100 people listening. and caring and being invested. And by the way, that also goes back to our earlier point. We think it's just the women performing that are impacted, but then the women in the room
Yeah.
that are listening and seeing, wow, I also was abused by my family in that way. What is the character going to do now? How is she going to get out of it? So I just I'm so grateful for that moment, because what happened is we trusted each other in the group. Um, and we I thought when they said we want this character to be called Denia, Denya, and I said, "Oh, Denia, because she's been denied by the world." And they were like, "No, it's Denia." So I just
You
I
were
was
trying to read into it.
like, okay. And but it's that, like, let's honor the creative heart of what wants to come,
Mm.
you know. And so that was the space I was holding and encouraging. That was really a truly transformative, incredible moment.
That is so beautiful. You're wrecking my mascara here, Jen. That is
It happens.
like the just you set the stage of how cold it was. I felt everything that you just said. I was right there in that room with you. And you're an incredible storyteller, but you really the emotion that comes, like I felt the transformation. I felt like I was in that audience because as we know as performers, it's never a one-way street. Your show is good because your audience has connected with your material.
Right.
That's what makes the show good. When they're hanging on your every word, they're so invested, whether that is a song or a delivery of somebody just being able, because all of that comes into play. They feel her standing there and never having a voice because they resonate with that. It's the compassion. And that's the magic of art, right? You said that before about the compassion piece. And I want to go back to that because I feel like that's what the world needs more of now.
Correct.
And that's what get all of these emotions and feelings get evoked during that performance because you're touching something in somebody else's heart that they recognize. They're recognizing a piece of themselves in Danae.
Right.
Almost said Denia. Danae,
Right.
right? And that's the beauty of art. And it feels like a solitary thing so many times when we're behind that pen and that blank piece of paper. It feels solitary. It's never solitary. It's always a collective. Even when you get that best line, that best word, that best lyric, that best rhythm, it's because you've grabbed it from the collective. So it's never solitary. It's not a lonely experience if that's what people are afraid of. It's always that collective. And it's always the best stuff is always when you're thinking of what somebody else needs.
That's right. Yes.
But then the byproduct is the gift that you gave to those women, which was the self nurturing, which they don't get very often. And you gave them the tools that now they have forever. Oh, I just love it. I love the finding your voice. All my work surrounds voice, right? It's
Mhm.
like everything is voice. Um, what would you say? What tip would you give somebody if they're feeling so moved by all this, but they're not sure what to do with it? They don't remember what their creative magic is. What can they do? Is there a little exercise or something to help them spark that creative magic inside of themselves?
You know, even when you said that, I was thinking, well, I wonder if they have a sense of it. So I'd say reflect back to a moment of your own life, or even witnessing someone else, experiencing someone else. I got to see Lily Tomlin perform Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe on Broadway in 1986 when I was
Wow.
16.
Mhm.
I sat there and a voice inside me or around me said, "You do that." I was watching her play multiple characters.
Uh-huh.
So, what I toss to your audience is, has there been a moment that you sense, you know what, I'd really like to do that, or I really like that? And if so, put yourself into opportunities where you do that more. So listen and see what you would like. Maybe it's to go play softball. Maybe it's going to museum. Maybe it's that you really always, I love the Violent Femmes. I'm not sure if that's the audience cup of tea, but my brother was a punk rocker and we grew up in New York City, and he was going to CBGB's late at night when I was around 13 years old. He was out all night. And so there came a chance for the Violent Femmes coming here to Philly, and I brought my daughter to see the Violent Femmes, and it was absolutely incredible. And so I think the toss I have for your audience is look and see, is there something that is a forgotten piece,
Yeah.
and then nurture it by taking one action. Go to the concert, go to the softball game, go to the museum.
Yeah.
The other is just take, I'm going to say, 5 minutes to write. And here's your prompt. The prompt is, what I'd really love more than anything else is to tell a story about.
Mm.
And it can be an invented story. It can be a true story. And I'll just say, my uncle, who passed almost 2 years ago, was a great writer. And he wrote a book called The King of Swings. And it's about a golfer who was the last non-professional to beat to win all the major tournaments. I'm sorry, I don't even know the tournament. But here's the thing. He didn't have to make up the story. No one had told the story. And so he ended up going and doing research and meeting some members of his family that had all these newspaper clippings, all lost to history. And my uncle, who was a fiction writer, came in and reconstituted this lost story.
Wow.
And so when I say, what story do you want to tell? It can be something that's actually somebody else's story, but that how you tell it can be really important, maybe the only way that we get to know the story. And really everything is a story, as you have said through this whole show. So might as well make it a good one instead of a despairing one about yourself or someone else. Even if it's a drama, even if it's a tragedy, you tell the story so that it changes things, so that it matters, so that we don't forget, so that we learn something. So lean into the story. That's what I'd say, and play with it and let it come to you. And if you're not sure and you sit there with a page and nothing comes, do it badly. That's my last tip for all of you. I had a coach come to me once that was really not sure about her creativity. And I said, I want you to write badly. And it freed her forever. And then she finally wrote her best book.
Whoa.
So play with that. What is the story I really would love to tell, want to tell, and then use those different ways to get at it.
Oh,
Whether
I
it's
love that.
true or not true, you make it up.
You make it up. And I love it. I love that because we all have that story. You know, something like 90% of people all want to write a book. They say they have a story inside of them, but less than 5% ever do. And this is one of those things, right? And as we're wrapping up here on this amazing edition, it's one of those things where, you know, it's the rocking chair test, I call it. And it's where You imagine yourself sitting 90 to 100 years old in your rocking chair. You're in a beautiful, happy place, wherever that is for you. And you're thinking to yourself, because they did studies and they showed that when they studied the dying, they don't talk about the things they did. They talk about that one thing they didn't do that they wanted to so badly. That's why I love what you're encouraging people to do. So what is that one little thing that you don't want to have regret over, right? Let that inspire you. Let that motivate you. And then use all of Jennifer. I'm going to put those in the show notes. Those are so good. So if you need that prompt again, it's going to be in the show notes, guys. It's just, I can't even tell you. This has been the most perfect 100th episode for Look for the Good with you, Jennifer. I'm so glad. I'm so honored to have you here with us today, sharing your heart with us.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy.
So fun. So amazing. I love it. It's been incredible. It's so nice to reconnect with you. And I just want everybody to remember, quickly tell them where they can find you.
Hey, so my name is Jennifer Blaine. So that's my performance website, jenniferblaine.com. And then my coaching website is blainecoaching.com.
Wonderful. And thank you, everybody. And as we conclude this 100th episode of Look for the Good, we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We're sending our love. And remember, it is never too late to live your best story. Be well.
Thanks for tuning in to Look for the Good with your host, Carrie Rowan, best-selling author and mindset coach. Join us every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. right here at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. If you weren't able to catch an episode, no worries. Just visit our website to find all the archived episodes of Look for the Good on demand, so you don't miss a thing. And remember, it's never too late to live your best story. For additional resources or to find out about how you can work with Carrie directly, visit carrierowan.com for more details.